the one NVIDIA question that matters. Part 2, how big is the market? This is a quick primer on the AI market. How big is it and how can or should you get exposure? A, market potential. How big is the opportunity? There are 3 ways to get to numbers for this. First, you can start with NVIDIA's current numbers and try to forecast growth. When companies are growing quickly, this is next to impossible. A small change in assumptions can make an extraordinary difference in the outcome. The second way is to look at the total market size and then make assumptions about the possible market share. Private investment in artificial intelligence. I'm using net-based data for this. It is hard to know how accurate this data is. It seems credible, but my guess is that there are going to be lots of job title changes to make it sound like there is some involvement in artificial intelligence. So some of this is going to be bullshit. I stop calling my offsider an analyst and start calling them a data scientist. I rename a statistician to a machine learning specialist. They get a salary bump and I get to tell my shareholders what a good job we are doing. But there is going to be a lot more bullshit since the launch of ChatGPT. Secondly, the net-based data fell by 30% in 2022. It is hard to tell why. I suspect the best explanation is that there were a lot of SPACs and venture capitalists raising money in 2021, and then that disappeared into 2022. If NVIDIA is any guide, some of this money will be back in 2023. Then we need to take out any spending by China. Chinese companies are banned from using the most advanced US technology, and so for listed companies are unlikely to be a significant source of sales going forward. If we average 2021 to 22, take out China, then we are starting with a market size of about 100 billion. Let's be aggressive. Say this can go to 400 billion in short order. So we are talking about an extra 300 billion in spending on artificial intelligence. Keep in mind also that AI is very compute intensive up front, but applying the model is simpler and doesn't need the same scale of computing. Having said that, you will apply the model exponentially more than you create the model. So of the extra $300 billion, we are talking, say, $75 billion on computing costs. But that isn't all going to NVIDIA. Deduct the profit margin of data centers, memory, storage, power, data centers, infrastructure staff, and equipment. A heroically optimistic assumption would be that NVIDIA end up with 30% or 25 billion, which is not that far off the increases NVIDIA already announced. So maybe this estimate is low. Data center capex. The other way to attack the market size is to look existing spend at data centers and scale up from there. The latest 2024 first quarter numbers suggest that the hyperscale capex, the yellow in the chart above, is now running at $300 billion rather than $200 billion. I'm assuming the enterprise IT and telco capex aren't going to be meaningfully affected. This is mostly about computing, not data transmission. This means we start with $300 billion on hyperscale capex per year. Again, let us be really, really aggressive. Say capital expenditure goes to $500 billion in short order. Of this spend, 50 to 60% goes to data centers, say $175 billion. Data centers make more than 30% margins, and I'm guessing if there was a doubling of demand, the margins would be higher. Ignore that though, say we still have $125 billion to spend. Of that spend, 55 to 60% goes on servers, and the rest on power, networking, staff, infrastructure, rent, etc. So, $75 billion to spend on servers. How much of a server cost ends up with the processor? It varies depending on the use case, but if you are buying state-of-the-art processors to speed up your calculation, you can't skimp on storage, power, networking, memory, etc. If you get a low-end but relatively beefy server around $10,000, then 20 to 30% might go to the processor. At the high end, a $300,000 supercomputer might see 80% going to the processor. So how big is the market? The real assumption is what type of artificial intelligence people want to run. If it is about running models over large but finite data sets, for example, financial data, health data sets like DNA or engineering results, then we are more likely to end up with lots of cheaper hardware and NVIDIA maybe add another $10, $15 billion in sales. That would mean profits around $25 billion in a few years, which is well below what analysts are currently predicting. If lots of companies want to ingest data sets the size of the internet, then NVIDIA could be closer to $40 or $50 billion in profit. This is marginally below current forecasts. B, investment. If I knew for sure that NVIDIA would, end up with a $50 billion profit in a few years. Grow from there at normal semiconductor rates, have normal semiconductor earnings or margin volatility, and have 90% of the artificial intelligence processor market. Then I would maybe pay a market multiple. Maybe. More likely I would want a small discount similar to other semiconductor stocks, which is probably 30% lower than the stock currently trades. So either NVIDIA is in a bubble or there is something else driving NVIDIA. Part 3, it is not just about AI. NVIDIA has started to make a compelling case for a paradigm shift. The big picture comparison here is that data processing speeds keep halving, commonly known as Moore's Law. The single CPU version of this has been tailing off in recent years as the limits of physics and miniaturization are being reached. There may be a quantum computing solution at some stage, but certainly not imminently. However, the reality is that you don't care whether your computer, phone, or device uses one chip or not. You just care whether the data is processed. And this is where NVIDIA is stepping in with the view that future computing is about 3 things. How to make GPUs talk to the other components of a server, mainly memory, more efficiently. How to make the chips, mainly GPUs, talk to each other more efficiently. And how to make groups of chips analogous to servers talk to each other more efficiently. That is, it is a reframing of Moore's Law. The individual chips might only be getting a little better each year, but if the data center as a whole is getting much better every year, then the effect is the same. Why this matters more now is that artificial intelligence requires far more data than what can be expected to fit on single chip or a single server. And so if NVIDIA can be the master of the GPU chip, getting GPU chips to talk to each other, and getting groups of GPU chips to talk to other groups of GPU chips, then maybe we are going to go through another paradigm shift in computing and where the value is. Semiconductors background. The semiconductor market is a nasty industry. Companies come and go all the time. You have to keep spending on R&D, innovating and building new factories. Take the memory market. Or if you look at leading edge foundries, IBM was the king until it was not. Ditto Intel, Texas Instruments. The list of the once mighty is long. Generally, it seems to be a technology path taken by a new player that everyone else thinks is not worth exploring. Then once the new company has a technological breakthrough, it is then about exploiting that into dominance. This is the path that Intel followed with its PC chips until it became an also-ran. Or ASML making a bet on extreme ultraviolet lithography, or TSMC taking all of the low-value, high-volume work away from US companies only to work their way up the value chain. There's also a long list of companies with technological breakthroughs that never made it to the dominant stage. And which will NVIDIA be? And can it take an advantage in GPUs and leverage it into a broader opportunity? What is the opportunity? This is NVIDIA's key chart. So if you can do more calculations on each GPU and you can communicate between GPUs more efficiently, then you save heaps on power and the speeds are way faster. The trillion-dollar question, are we about to undergo a fundamental computing shift where this model becomes the future of data centers? Hit me up in the comments with your thoughts if you genuinely know something about this area. NVIDIA's pitch seems compelling. If NVIDIA's vision is the future, NVIDIA profits can keep growing for some time and NVIDIA may well become the largest company in the world. If there is an alternative technology that will trump this, or a reason that this trend will reverse, then NVIDIA is looking expensive.
Nucleus Wealth, personalized portfolios for engaged investors.